Here's a 3-step approach that you can use with your nutrition to start losing weight and getting in shape. Use this if you have tried multiple diets and nothing is working for you. It's 3 steps and it requires accuracy, consistency, and patience. I'm Rachel, personal trainer and online coach, helping women get strong and fit and feel good in themselves. And I have helped countless women over the last 6 years do exactly that. So here's a 3-step approach, but before we get into it, make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss any more of my videos. So the first step, you actually need to establish your starting point. So that means your weight. Even though we don't place a lot of emphasis on this, we still want to know what your starting weight is, your measurements. So do like a chest measurement, like a bust measurement, a waist measurement, a hip measurement, and like a thigh, like a mid-thigh measurement as well. And then photographs of you either in your underwear or bikini or some very fitted gym attire so that you can see your body shape as it currently is. So you need to establish all of those first and foremost, because you need a starting point if you're going to know whether you've achieved anything. I also want you to score out of 10 what your average energy levels are like day to day. And if you're training as well, I want to score out of 10 for what you feel like your gym performance is in terms of attention, focus, how good you feel doing it. You're then, for the next 2 weeks, once you've done those starting figures, you are going to track everything that you consume. So there's a number of apps you can use. My clients, I advise them to use NutriCheck, and you are going to log everything that you eat or drink. Anything that's got a calorific value, you are going to log. And you're going to do it as accurately as possible. I'm not going to tell you any specific numbers you need to hit. I want you to eat as you normally would eat and track it all. What this is going to do is it's going to bring awareness to what you're doing. You're also going to see what your average calorie consumption is every day and then over the 2 weeks. You're also going to see how much protein you're having on average, how many carbohydrates, how much fat, how much fibre. We're going to start to see patterns, foods that you eat a lot of, foods you maybe need to eat more of, and we're going to get that data. So you're going to log all your starting point, and then you are going to track everything you consume for 2 weeks without changing a thing. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is we're then going to review the data. So after those 2 weeks, you're going to do your weight again, your measurements again, your pictures again. And we're going to see if there's any change at all. Now, don't worry if there's been no change, because I've not asked you to do anything differently. There may be a change, there may not be. If there hasn't been a change, what you're going to do is look at what your average calories have been over those 2 weeks. Say, for ease of numbers, say you've on average eaten 2,000 calories a day. I then just want you to deduct 10 to 15%. So 17 to 1,800 calories. And that is going to be your calorie range moving forward. You're also going to look at what your quantities of protein, fats and carbohydrates are and what your fibre intake is. And if your fibre intake is low and you look at it and you think you're not really eating many fruit and vegetables, that's one thing that I want you to include in your total calorie allowance. I also want you to look at how much protein you're having, and depending on where that starting point is, I want you to increase it so that you're in and around 100 grams a day. Now, if you're way off, if you're only eating maybe 40 grams a day, then I just want you to try and bump it up slowly. You know, you might go to like 60 grams a day, but you're aiming for that 100 gram mark. And then how you divvy up your carbohydrates and fats is up to you within that calorie range. If you've seen a little change, which in 2 weeks, we're not expecting significant changes, but there may be a weight drop, you may notice change in your measurements, how your pictures look. Again, I want you to look at the calories, and I want you to just stick around those calories. So if it is 2,000, then I want you to eat with a range of between 1,900 and 2,000. And that's going to be your calorie range. And then still apply the same principles, ensuring fruit and veg, fibre, and protein intake. That is step 2. Step 3 is that you are going to repeat the process. So you're going to go through another 2 weeks using those figures, tracking everything that you consume, sticking to those numbers, and seeing where you are again after 2 weeks. Now, this is really important for a number of reasons. One, you'll start to see, like I say, the foods that you eat a lot of, but what you overconsume. You'll start to get an understanding of how much you're eating, what you're eating, and how that might even vary day to day. We're also going to look at how consistent you can be with those small changes. One of the biggest problems women face is they want to make a change and they throw everything at it. And they can't stick to one thing, yet they try and do 5 new things. So we want to see that you can stick to that calorie range and aiming for those protein targets and fruit and veg targets. It's going to require accuracy, and it's going to require you to be consistent with those log-in behaviours. It's also going to require patience, because you're not just going to see a quick result like that, but what you are doing is gathering the data required to move forward every 2 weeks. Now, you might even choose to extend that 2 weeks to 3 or 4 weeks, because sometimes you do need a long, especially if you've not been accurate. If you've had 2 weeks and it's not been accurate, I don't want you changing your calories and changing what you're doing. But if you've been accurate, you can do that. If you've not been accurate, maybe do it for 3 or 4 weeks. Because again, we're only going to change anything if you have been accurate for that period of time and you've been consistent and nothing's changing. And I don't want you to look at it and thinking nothing's changing because you want more of a change or you expect more of a change. I want you to look at the data objectively, what your weight's saying, measurements are saying, pictures are saying. Because your weight might not be changing, but your measurements and pictures might be. Or your measurements might be, people sometimes struggle with, is that a loss? Is that a centimetre down? But your pictures will show you so much of what's going on. So that's what you're going to go off. But you can use all the data to make the decision. That's your 3-step process. This is what I do with my clients, especially at the start of their journey, when we're figuring out how many calories they need to be consuming, what behaviours they have. Give it a try. Let me know how you get on.